Good morning, Nagesh, Kumar, delegates. When we started writing this report a few months back, given the theme which was around retrospect, reinvent, rewrite, we felt that the conventional way of writing a report on what Retail 2020 is going to be is not going to be fruitful. And therefore, as you will see later in the report, this actually has got two parts, and I'm going to talk about one part of it, which is what are some of the themes that we see happening in the Indian environment over the course of the next 5 years. But we've supplemented this with actually talking to more than 25 people from the retail industry who between them would have more than 300, 500 years of experience to actually help us crystallize what these 5 themes are going to be. I'm going to take the next 15 minutes to just share with you the 5 themes, but I would encourage all of you to go through this report. It is a few pages, but it actually shares the perspective of the retailers who've actually seen how the retail environment in India has changed over the last 15 years and how it could pan out over the course of the next 5 years as well. There's a famous saying that only 2 things are certain in life, which is death and taxes. We've taken a stab and said that there's actually a third thing which is certain, which is the certainty of growth. When we were talking to some of the retailers, one of the comments which stayed in my mind was what Bhaskar Bhatt from Titan said. He said, actually, let's stop talking about what the potential is going to be in 2020. Let's realize that the potential even today is very large. So when we are looking at retail markets across the world, India is amongst the top 5 retail markets to look at, and it represents, even today, a fairly large opportunity for everyone. If we look at parallels from what has happened across other countries, more importantly, as to what has happened in different cities in India and how different cities are actually moving over a period of time, we believe that the opportunity in 2020 could be close to 3 times in terms of modern retail as to what it is in India. Now, what is fueling that? There's the obvious piece about increasing incomes, increased nuclearization of families, increased urbanization. But the single biggest driver of this is actually the change in aspirations, the change in attitudes of people, part of it which is driven by what is happening in the society, in the environment, but part of it is also driven by what retailers are doing. So if we look at 2 cities which are of the same size, same population strata, same income, but one of them has got a higher presence of modern retail, you actually find that that supply creates its own demand. So the first theme which is to lay out is the certainty of growth, to look at what the opportunity could be and whether it is 170 or 180 or $200 billion, in our view, is less important than the fact that there is a massive opportunity which lies going forward. The second piece, and I think several speakers have mentioned it before me, around the reality of digital. Today, if you were to look at the amount of newspaper column inches which are spent on digital or e-commerce, one would believe that this is bigger than modern trade or bigger than overall retail itself. The fact is today, the organized or the e-commerce market is a very small part of the overall retail market. Numbers estimating even the present is difficult, but our sense is it's about $5 billion today. Now, the question is, what is it going to be in the next 5 years? If you look at parallels from across the world, the one example that everybody is fascinated by is to say what has happened in China. China today is the largest e-commerce market in the world. It is more than $350 billion. The sales that China does in one day actually has been more than the entire annual sales that we've done in 2014. However, the big question is, will India actually reach that position or not? So we've actually looked at what are the factors which have drawn this big growth in China. And there are 6 things which have driven that. It is high rentals, it is the lack of organized trade, it is the fact that there is lack of consumer trust, it is logistic costs are low, it is broadband is abundant and is cheap. If you look at the 6 factors and try to pan where India is today and where India could be going forward, the good news is that there are several things which are common between China of 7-10 years back. The bad news is many of the things which are similar are those related to the inefficiencies. So, will India become the next China in the next 5 years? Our view is no. But will it still be growing at something like 50% plus? So the 4 billion could become a 30 billion in the next 5 years? Yes. Now, this is the one thing which, one of my colleagues says is, if you make enough predictions, then you are safe, because some of them are going to pan out correctly, some of them are going to be wrong, and you can point out to the